We are a few days away from the draft, and in this video I am going to give you my top 3 guys I believe are most likely to be picked in the first round by the Eagles. Also, we got to talk about Donovan. I didn't know there were ties in the NFL. McNabb, who's giving advice to Carson Wentz about the importance of winning big playoff games. Really, Donovan McNabb is going to give Carson Wentz advice on winning big games? That's like me saying, hey, you shouldn't eat bad food and go on a diet. You're too fat.
Still the cowboy, Mr. McLean. You Americans are all alike. But this time, John Wayne doesn't walk into the sunset with Grace Kelly.
Scary Cooper, asshole.
Oh, Diva! Oh, shit! Oh, shit! That was crazy!
Happy trails, Hans. Dallas still stinks. Yo, everybody doing? King Dingbat here, and we are a few days away from the draft, and I cannot wait. I am super excited. I cannot wait to be streaming live, hanging out with you guys, watching this thing go down, because I believe the Eagles are going to be very, very active in this draft. Not only day 1, but day 2 and day 3, and even the few days before the draft, I think we're going to start to see a lot of rumors. Now, one of the things we talked about the other day was the Eagles trading the 25th pick for a veteran player, a guy like Frank Clark. Well, that's not going to happen. Frank Clark, and it's breaking right now, has been traded, I believe, to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think it's like for a first, a second, it's a lot of picks, way more than I ever would have given up for him if I was the Eagles. So we can throw the Eagles trading that 25th pick for a veteran player out the window. That's not what's going to happen. Now, I do believe the Eagles are going to trade the 25th pick. I think they are going to move up. I expect the Eagles, and I've said this all along, I expect them to move up in the draft and to trade up and get the guy that they want. Get the guy they want. They're going to trade up for him. Now, who do they want? That's the question. We have seen tons of names linked to the Eagles, and I'm working on my second mock draft still, and I've gone through all these different scenarios and different possibilities of different guys that we've heard. And basically, I'm at the point now where I've come up with a top 3 list. A top 3 list of who I think the Eagles will end up with in the first round. It's basically one of these 3 guys I believe will be the Eagles' first round pick. And I want to go over some of their names. I want to go over all of their names. What the hell am I talking about? So what I want to do now is give you my top 3 guys that I think most likely have the best shot of ending up with the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? Now, the first guy I want to talk about, he's been rumored to be with the Eagles all off season. All off season. We know the Eagles have had him in for a visit. He's been linked almost in every story that is written about him and talking about the teams connected to him. The Eagles are mentioned. Now, there was a report yesterday saying that the Eagles, along with the Colts and the Raiders, are all interested in this guy, and that's Josh Jacobs, the running back. I have him number 3 on my list, and a lot of that is because of the amount of reports and the amount of stuff that has come out about how much the Eagles like him and how they view him as the best running back in this draft. Now, the teams also connected to him are the Raiders and the Colts, which is interesting because the Eagles are picking 25. I believe the Raiders are picking 24 or 23. I can't remember which one exactly. And then you have the Colts at number 26. So if all 3 of these teams are legitimately interested in Josh Jacobs, the Eagles would have to trade up, maybe to 21 to Seattle or something to get him. Now, this fits my MO because I believe the Eagles are trading up. So he would be a guy that they possibly could move up for if they really like him. And look, I personally have Josh Jacobs rated as my 3rd best running back. My number 1 running back is Darrell Henderson. My second best running back is Miles Sanders. Henderson and Miles Sanders are neck and neck. Okay, then I have Josh Jacobs. I like Josh Jacobs. I think he could be very good with the Eagles and in their system, and I would have no problem with them drafting him. But just based upon how much we've heard about the Eagles' love for Josh Jacobs, I think this is a very real possibility. The Eagles don't draft running backs in the first round. That is not something that they do. But you know what? things have to happen. At some point, sometime in this existence of mankind, the Eagles are going to draft a running back in the first round. It will happen eventually. Maybe this is the year. So I have him as my number 3 guy. My number 2 guy is a guy that I picked in my first mock draft, and that's Jeffrey Simmons. There are more reports saying the Eagles love him along with the Colts, and they like him a lot. I think that Jeffrey Simmons is a stud. I like him better than I like Ed Oliver. I really think that Jeffrey Simmons is going to be a player in this league. And yes, he has an ACL injury. And the reason that the Eagles may have a chance to get him at 25, or if they trade up a couple spots, is because of that injury. Now, all the Eagles are going to have to do is basically hold out 8 to 10 weeks while he comes back from that injury. And then they got him. Then they got a legitimate stud defensive tackle for the long term to go along with Fletcher Cox. And by the end of the year, by the time we get into the playoffs, I expect Jeffrey Simmons to be starting alongside Fletcher Cox. He's going to be playing. He's going to be contributing. And I think he's a great player. I think he's a special player. I love Jeffrey Simmons. So he is number 2 on my list. Now, this takes me to the guy I think most likely is going to end up an Eagle. And this may require the belief that the Eagles are going to trade up. And that's fine because I believe it. But I think the Eagles, when you look at what they like to do, right? They like to go defensive line. They like to go offensive line. They really believe in their lines from inside out. And that's how they build their teams. I think the Eagles have not addressed the offensive line at all this all season. They cut Wisniewski, but they haven't done anything else. And I think the Eagles, in the end, at the end of the day, they are going to make a trade up. And I don't know how many spots it's going to be, but they're going to make a trade up for Cody Ford. I believe that he is the guy most likely to end up with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I like Cody Ford a lot. I like him. I see him as an interior guard, but he is also a guy that can play inside and outside. And when you can get a guy who can basically play 2 positions, he is very, very valuable. And I would love this pick. I would give the Eagles an A+++ for this pick. Now, in recent mock drafts, Cody Ford has been dropping. There's a lot of mocks now having him go right around when the Eagles pick, okay? And I look at a team like the Baltimore Ravens or the Houston Texans. They are going to need an offensive lineman. So for the Eagles to get him, they are going to have to trade up. But this is what I think they are going to do anyway. So I would say that Cody Ford, I really think, is the guy the Eagles are going to wind up with in this draft. Now, there's a few other guys that me personally I would like to see. Like if a Hollywood Brown is there, I would love to see the Eagles get him. I would love to see the Eagles get a DK Metcalf if for some reason he fell or something like that. You know, those guys I would love. As far as linebacker goes, like I've said all season, the Eagles don't value linebackers enough to take him in the first round. I can't see them doing it. I just cannot. I don't think Bush will be there when the Eagles pick anyways, but I can't see the Eagles taking a linebacker in the first round. Maybe with their second round pick, maybe. But linebacker, I don't see it. I even a running back is kind of hard to see, but just because of the sheer amount of reports and different rumors and different sources stating how much the Eagles love Josh Jacobs. It's either a total fake out by the Eagles or they really like the kid. So, yeah, my list and the guys that I think are most likely to end up getting picked by the Eagles in the first round is 1, Cody Ford, 2, Jeffrey Simmons, and 3, Josh Jacobs. So Thursday night, when the first round is over, I believe the Eagles will end up with one of those 3 guys. Jeffrey Simmons, Cody Ford, or Josh Jacobs. One of those guys, I believe, is going to be an Eagle, and they are my top 3 most likely to be drafted by the Eagles. And if it's Cody Ford or Jeffrey Simmons, I am going to be super happy. Look, even if Josh Jacobs gets drafted by the Eagles, I'll be happy with that. I like him. But Cody Ford and Jeffrey Simmons, to me, would be spectacular. Would be a spectacular pick in the first round. Now, the other thing I got to talk about really quick is this Donovan McNabb, Carson Wentz situation. Okay, now I had no intention of even acknowledging Donovan McNabb's comments, okay? Not because he wasn't a great Eagles quarterback or anything like that, but because over the years, Donovan McNabb has continually taken shots at the Eagles, said things about the Eagles quarterbacks, and this isn't new that this isn't something new that he went after Carson Wentz. He went after Kevin Kolb. He went after Michael Vick. You remember 2013, Nick Foles 27-2, and he was talking about how unimpressive it was, and maybe he's not a franchise quarterback, and if he only had the weapons that Nick Foles had, his career. I mean, he has constantly ribbed the Eagles and taken shots at the Eagles. So it is no surprise to me that he has taken a shot at Carson Wentz, And I gotta say, I expect Dallas fans to go after Carson. I expect it. But I think there's going to be a lot of people, especially a lot of Eagle fans, who are going to owe Carson Wentz an apology when this thing is all said and done. I mean, there's a lot of people that have written him off, that act like he's nothing, that act like that 2017 season was nothing. They forget how good he was, how dominant Carson Wentz was. They forget. And then they like to slap a, injury-prone label on him. And I think it's unfair. It's not been long enough to sit there and say he's injury-prone. The guy played every game his rookie year. Now people say, well, he had a rib injury and that was injured. But it was preseason, and if it was a regular season game, he would have played through it. But he didn't. It was preseason. He played all 16 games that year. His second year, he played 13 games and tore his ACL. But he should have won MVP. He should have won MVP despite missing 3 games, because Gurley didn't. Gurley sat on the bench to finish the year. Brady sat on the bench to finish the year because they had clinched. So he only missed like 2 games, and he was better than everybody. Okay? People forget how dominant this guy was. And then they talk about last year, like, oh, he only throws the earth, and he only does this, and he's not that good, and he's a choker, and all this stuff. It's all bullcrap. It's all bullcrap. The guy played on a crack back, and he still put up great numbers, still had a great quarterback rating, okay? He still was productive, even though he was, 70%? Okay? He's not injury prone. You can't say he's injury prone yet. I think it's unfair. When you come back from a torn ACL, a lot of times guys get other injuries. It just happens. That first year back is never really that good. It's this coming year that they make a rebound. Now, if he gets hurt again this year, like bad, then I think that it's fair to put that label on him. Am I concerned about his injuries? Yes. But I'm not willing to write him off. And I think there's too many people out there that are willing to write this guy off, act like he couldn't do anything, act like if he didn't get hurt, he had no chance of winning the playoffs or a Super Bowl or anything like that. And then you get McNabb. You get McNabb sitting there saying if he doesn't win, get out of the second round in the next few years, they got to draft another quarterback. Well, what? Should the Eagles have had the same thought that if McNabb can't win 3 straight NFC championship games, they should get rid of him? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You don't even know the circumstance in which he might lose those games. What if he loses those games and yet he goes up and he plays great? What if he gives the Eagles the lead? 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He throws 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. He's 34, 38, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He gives the team a lead, and then they kick off return. They run it back for a touchdown, or the team goes down and scores in the final drive because the defense allows them. There are so many circumstances in which a team loses a playoff game. You can't say that it's automatically going to be Carson Wentz's fault if they don't win. You don't know the circumstances of the game. He could have a great game and they still could lose. We're going to get rid of him. We're going to draft another quarterback. I think it's ridiculous. And even when McNabb makes sense, sometimes because it comes from him, a person who people think is jealous, is just insecure about his place in the Eagles' history, maybe That's part of it. Maybe that's why he says those things. At least that's the perception he gives off, because he's been talking about the Eagles for years. This is not starting with Carson Wentz. This is beyond and before Carson Wentz. I think it's ridiculous, and I think a lot of people are going to owe Carson Wentz an apology when he comes out and double moonwalks everybody's ass next year. Now, I'm a Carson lover. I make no qualms about it. I'm a Carson dude. I am. And I have got his back until the end. Until he's not Eagle anymore, I got his back. I believe in Carson Wentz. I believe he will get it done. And I believe a lot of people, including Donovan McNabb, are going to have to eat their words at the end of this year. So you tell me what you think. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. And don't be a dingbat.